welcome to Spoil Me Niecy. It's me, Niecy, here, and I hope that you're all doing very well. So today I wanted to focus on the conversation of parenthood and when your responsibilities as a parent are supposed to end. So the issue that made me, interested in this topic was the whole conversation surrounding Dr. Dre and his daughter LaTonya Young. Apparently, recently it came out that LaTonya Young, it's a tongue twister, is living in her car, taking up warehouse odd jobs, Uber Eats, things like that. And again, living in her car, if I haven't said that already. Her kids are staying with friends. While her father, Dr. Dre, is a billionaire, and he was recently ordered to pay his estranged wife somewhere around $300,000 a month. I have my opinions on this, and let's get into it. So I see online that a lot of people are pretty much split in opinions. You have some people that are on the side of Dr. Dre is a billionaire. He's supposed to take care of his daughter no matter her age. She's 38, his oldest daughter. And then you have some people like, I think his name is Shannon Sharp. I've seen him on ESPN, talking before. Apparently he had a very passionate, passionate things to say about this, and pretty much he supports Dr. Dre 100% in that he is not responsible for taking care of his daughter. Now, before I get into, what I researched about Dr. Dre and his daughter, and his daughter's relationship, what I will say is that there's no real proof that Dr. Dre is not a good dad. Yes, there's a lot of proof that maybe he wasn't the best guys to some of the mothers in the past, because, he did have some issues with, violence years ago towards women, which he came out and apologized for, and we'll get to that in a second. However, there's no real proof that he's not a good dad. You don't hear about his 2 children with Nicole Young. You don't hear about them saying anything negative about their dad. Even the children that he has with the son that he has with Michelle. The singer Michelle, she came forward and was very vocal about her very abusive relationship with Dr. Dre. She even made a Lifetime movie about it. They do have a son together. And aside from everything that she accused Dr. Dre of in her movie, or show that, allegedly happened between them in her movie, she did go on to say that she has a son with Dr. Dre and a 10-year-old daughter with Suge Knight. And she said that both of the fathers do love and take care of their children. And she said they are great fathers, and they are a lot for them. They're there a lot for them. So, this pretty much just kind of shows that Dr. Dre might potentially be an excellent father. So this situation with his daughter, LaTonya Young, in my opinion, kind of sounds like it might be in an isolated situation. It doesn't speak volumes of who he is as a father. He seems like maybe he's a good dad. Now, I know that, of course, I don't know a whole lot about Dr. Dre. To be honest, the most I know about him is some of the songs that I grew up listening to, and the movie Straight Outta Compton. Before that movie came out, I didn't know a whole lot about him. I knew that he used to be with Eminem, back when I was in high school and stuff, but I didn't know much about him. When that Michelle movie came out, it was eye-opening, because Dr. Dre was one of those celebrities where it's you've heard of him, you know that he's really successful, but I just kind of didn't know much about him. Now, to the LaTonya young lady, apparently she's 38 years old, and according to some articles I read, her dad used to help her out at some point. I did read in an article that he had her back in the 80s, and he was, I guess, ordered to pay somewhere around $200 a month in child support. But you got to think that was like back in the 80s. He was not the success that he is today. He was working up to that point. And her mother, who I believe her name is Lisa Johnson, apparently she filed claims that she and Dr. Dre had a physical altercation, which resulted in her lip being busted, according to this article, which I will link in the descriptions. But apparently she didn't go further with it, so there were no charges that stood. Anywho, that's the relationship that LaTonya, the young lady in question, that her mother had with Dr. Dre. Now, according to some articles, LaTonya does say that she has not spoken to her dad in 17 years and that her father has not met his grandchildren. I do wonder if maybe their relationship being the way that it is has anything to do with the relationship that he had with her mother. I kind of wonder if that's the case, but at this point I feel that, unless you've been following these people, like I sure haven't, there's not enough information out there to be able to tell if, he's holding whatever happened with the mom against her or if she's holding it against him. So anyone that says that would kind of just be making an assumption. And I'm not going to make that assumption because I don't know any of these people. So what I want to touch on here is the side that I'm on in this particular topic. Now, me personally, I feel that if a parent is a billionaire, while they are not obligated to take care of their adult child, it's morally the right thing to do to help them out. I feel like if I were a billionaire like Dr. Dre, I don't really care what the relationship is like with my kids. I know that he cut her, according to articles I've read, he cut her off because she went to the media. But I'm not 100% certain on, why that made him cut her off or whatever. But anywho, I just personally feel like if I was a billionaire, I don't care how old my kids are. I don't care if I'm an old billionaire who's 100 years old and my kids are in their 80s. There's no way in this world that I'm going to be a billionaire with houses and yachts and islands and resources, and any of my offspring are going to be living on the street. That's just not going to happen. I feel like if there is an issue in the relationship, then I would go to counseling with that kid. Or, it's okay to leave family alone. You can love them at a distance. You don't have to speak to them. That's perfectly okay to do. But I feel like if I was in his position and I caught wind of something like that, I would definitely do something to help. Even if I got the child a studio apartment, nothing extravagant, just like in a safe neighborhood or a relatively safe neighborhood, got them a studio. She has 3 kids, I think. Even if I got them like a 2-bedroom and said, hey, well, y'all got to figure it out. Or a 1-bedroom and said, hey, let the kids stay in the bedroom and you go in the living room and you make it work. But this is as far as it goes. Even if I didn't put any money in that child's hand and I just paid whatever rent they had, that is literally what I would do. But I definitely would not have that child on the street. However, considering she stresses on the fact that he cut her off, maybe he was doing stuff for her before, maybe not, but here's how I look at it. He has to pay his ex-wife all of this money every single month. And that's not even his flesh and blood. His daughter's his flesh and blood. Even though he has other children that have been respectful and didn't come out and say anything against their dad or say anything about their dad, she's still his daughter, and your role as a parent to your kids, it doesn't end when they get older. It doesn't end there. Now, what I want to talk about is what it means to be a parent. By looking at some of the comments and some people saying, a person is not obligated to take care of their kid after the kid turns 18 or when the kid becomes an adult, okay, you can use that article. But by that logic, that would mean that when you become an old person and if you get old and sick, then that child is not obligated to take care of you. That child is not obligated to look out for you. If we have that cold attitude when it comes to our children, then that opens up the door for children to have that cold attitude towards their parents. So I think that people need to check themselves with that. They really need to check themselves with that. I think that while everybody can have their own opinion, if people support Dr. Dre in this or his stand, I support that, because I'm not totally against him. Again, I don't like any celebrities, okay? But as far as like his stance on things with his daughter, I'm fully aware that we don't know these people. I really don't care about these people. I'm more so interested in the bigger picture. And I think that Dr. Dre and his daughter just represent a small part of this issue. And I think that the biggest part of the issue is, I don't think that people that are out here having children or even thinking about having children or that could possibly have children, I don't think they really understand the importantness of being a parent. You have a lot of people in this world that have this idea that once a child turns 18, that somehow their obligation to that child is over. That kid is on their own when they turn 18. And while I think that there are a lot of factors that contribute to sexual immorality and children out of wedlock and single parenthood, while there are a lot of factors that contribute to that, I do believe that if people understood the true meaning of being a parent, I think people who probably wouldn't be having children all willy-nilly all the time with people that they barely know, or when they can't afford it, or when they're not in a position to have kids. Because, just because that kid's 18th birthday comes along, your moral obligation to your kid is not over at that point. It's never over. I know me personally, I have children. I chose, to have my children. God bless me with my kids. But I'm fully aware as a parent that me being a mom, I'm a mom for life. Okay? I'm a mom for life. When my children turn 18, my moral obligation to my kids do not end there. Now, as a parent, yes, it is our jobs to teach our children and be there for them, and just kind of hope and pray that when they get older, they'll take the jewels that we gave them and fly and become, good members of society and keep their heads up and maintain work, whether it's their own business or working for somebody else and a place to live. While we hope that they do that, no, it's not our responsibility to take care of a lazy child, no. But it is our responsibility to pretty much do what we can. Is tough love a good thing? Yeah, it's okay to give children a tough love, but you do have to help out where you can. Should helping out your kid come in between you and having your own place to live, or you and having food on your own table? I don't think so, no. If your child is living an immoral lifestyle or a lifestyle that you don't agree with, does that give you grounds to just cut that child off? Some people would say so, sure. But me personally, I believe that you could help out a person or give a helping hand without necessarily having them in your life. There are things that you can do. Even if you send a blessing to someone through another trusted individual, they're just things that you can do to look out for your kids so that you never turn your back on them. And the door should always be open to fixing a relationship. So me personally, if I'm on her side or her dad's side, while I do have that stance on a parent never not being morally obligated to their kid, at the same time, when I read those articles, it does state that she hasn't seen her dad in 17 years, which I think is very crazy. However, if she hasn't seen her father in 17 years, I think that's more than enough time for her to say to herself that even though her dad is a billionaire, well, I don't think he was a billionaire 17 years ago, but I'm sure he had a lot of money at that point in time. That even though her dad is very financially well off, she pretty much has to fend for herself. There should have been some planning that took place there. So in the end, that could potentially show some irresponsibility on her part. But at the same time, I can't judge her 100% for that, because I do know that children that have their mothers and fathers are equally important in a child's life. But I do know that children that have a father in their life, it does kind of affect their decision making, especially girls. It affects your decision making as far as who you lay down with and who you have kids with, and if you get married. Usually, not all the time, but usually, statistically, children that come up with their mothers and their fathers and have a relationship with their dad, especially young ladies, they do have a tendency to make better choices in life, pretty much based off of their support system. So in the end, like I said, I'm not taking either side, but I do feel for the young lady, because me being a mom and a parent myself, that whole argument about a person being 38 and the parent not having to take care of them, that doesn't fly when the parent is a billionaire. And then when you think about things biblically as well, because if you're familiar with my videos, I'm always going to bring it back there. I feel like, I can't say only in America would someone defend something like this, but I know that, like, when you read about the different families in the Bible, like Jacob, when you read about like Isaac, even Abraham and other people in the Bible, whenever individuals had children, sometimes those kids, had a wife and kids and went on about their business. But when those kids got up to a certain age, their parents didn't just tell them to like hit the road. It wasn't like, you're on your own now and that's that. In fact, it seems to me that as I read through the Bible, it seems as though men were, no matter the age of their daughters, they still assumed some responsibility over their daughters, even, until they got married, even after they got married. And that made me think about Jacob, Leah, and Rachel in Genesis. Now, I forget the name of Jacob's uncle, but I know that when Jacob went to go look for a wife, he found Rachel and he wanted her. His uncle kind of tricked him into getting with Leah, but in the end he ended up with Leah and Rachel. He ended up there. He had a lot of children with Leah, Rachel, and the concubines, or I guess their maidservants. And the father, his wife's father, which was Jacob's uncle, tried to pull a fast one on Jacob. Long story short, you'd have to go to the book of Genesis to read it. Lo and behold, Jacob decided to get up his family and leave without his uncle's knowledge. Long story short, when his uncle came and they found them, his uncle pretty much said, you took my daughters and my grandchildren, and pretty much accused him of taking like some of his things as well. Now, the key thing that I want to point out is that he pretty much told Jacob, you took my daughters. He still cared for his daughters. Even though his daughters were old enough to get married and have children, he still looked at his daughters as those are his daughters. He still cared about his daughters, and that's just one example from the Bible. So pretty much it's not normal. It's not normal for parents to ever view their kids as not their kids, or not saying that's how Dr. Dre views her. I don't know. But it's just not normal for parents to not want to be in their children's life, in their grandchildren's life especially. Because having grandchildren is a blessing. Being alive to meet and talk to your grandchildren is an extreme blessing that's not granted to many people. And just that fact alone of the grandkids staying with friends, that'll, even if Dr. Dre helps her for the grandkids and not for her, even if everything that he does for her is for those grandkids and not necessarily for her, I think that would be the morally right thing to do. And that's another thing that we learn from the Bible as well, is that you're supposed to love your offspring. You know, you're supposed to love your children and your children's children. Now, one thing that kind of struck a nerve with me, like hearing that he hasn't even met his grandchildren and they're staying with friends, is that, you know, a lot of times when kids are abused or sometimes when they're molested, I hope and pray that her kids are with people that she can actually trust, and that whoever is caring for those kids doesn't hurt a hair on those kids' heads. But you just have to say to yourself that kids are the safest with, you know, their family, with their parents. Unless their parents like abusive or something like that. But, you know, other than like those circumstances, kids are like the safest with their parents. So it was just like interesting to me that he hasn't spoken to his daughter in all those years, and he doesn't even have a relationship for those grandkids. So that's really my take on the whole situation, that if the shoe was on the other foot, I know I don't always like saying, oh, if I was in this situation, I would do this or that, because I am also a strong believer in not being able to walk a mile in someone's shoes. And I also try not to comment on things unless I know everything about the situation, because there could be a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I'm just commenting on what we know, just the first layer of everything. The girl is homeless, the kids are with friends, the dad is a billionaire. Do I think it's right? No. There's nothing that justifies it. I could see if the girl came out and tried to physically harm her dad or something like that. No, she didn't. She came out and talked to some tabloids. Whatever. You're still a billionaire. It didn't hurt you. His background in abusing women did more harm to his reputation than anything that his daughter said. So ultimately, I do hope and pray that whatever happened in LaTonya and Dr. Dre's relationship is healed, so that he can be a helping hand to his daughter, even if it's in the most minimal way, so that he can help her out and get those kids back over to their mom, and hopefully he can have a relationship with his grandchildren. So that's it for this video. I hope that you all enjoyed. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. And if you have any comments, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. In the meantime, God bless you all in Jesus' name. Peace.